Hi there. Sorry about the delay. Just a couple more minutes. Aaron and President Williams are dealing with a technical issue.
All right, see Aaron?
So Kevin, I see Wayne, so I think that's everyone who was in the street meeting.
Okay. So folks, apparently we had two Zooms zooming along different Zoom territories, so I have no idea. But Aaron, myself, Kevin, Wayne were on a different one, which was also on the top of the agenda, so I have no idea what happened. However, all right, I'd like to call the Plan Commission to order. It is Wednesday, December 9th at 6:36. We are holding this via one Zoom due to the COVID pandemic. It is being recorded, so both the conversation as well as anything in the chat are being recorded. For those who would like to know, it is at the top of the agenda as an alternate. There's also a dial-in for audio only, as well as a meeting ID to select there. I'd like to have Lisa just confirm commission members, please.
Brinkmeyer, Broom, Justison,
Here.
Ratcliffe,
Here.
Sale,
Here.
Schultz, Williams.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please find a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I look forward to the day when we're all in the same room, we can stand in front of the flag together. Next item is public appearances, public's opportunity to speak on any subject that is not a specific agenda item. So I will take a quick pause here, and if someone from the public does want to speak, please share your name, your address, and hold your comments to 3 minutes in case we have multiple individuals that would like to speak. All right, move on then to item 5 is discuss and consider the meeting minutes for the Plan Commission from both September 15th meeting as well as our November 11th meeting. We'll start with the September 15th meeting since it's the first one on the list there.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 15th Plan Commission meeting minutes as presented.
Is there a second? Second from Melissa, first from Alex, thank you. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Then we'll follow on with the November 11th Plan Commission meeting minutes. Any discussion or comments there? Or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the November 11th Plan Commission meeting minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second to approve the November 11th meeting minutes as presented. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Moving on then to item 6, we will open a public hearing. This will be a public's opportunity to provide input regarding a proposed general development plan and preliminary plat from Kevin Metcalf for a 38-unit multi-family residential development located on lots 1 through 4 and CSM 12454, bounded by Court Crossing and County BB and Sandpiper Trail. So holding the public hearing, we'll start with the applicant, then we'll have staff, and then move on to any public comments or questions. That way, if the public does have a question, maybe we'll either the applicant or staff will have already addressed that as we go through that.
Great. Dwayne, do you have access to put the...
I do. Yeah, let me grab that quick.
So Kevin, you want to introduce yourself as well as Dwayne?
Sure. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. Kevin Metcalf with Metcalf Company. We're the ownership group for UMJ Investments that owns this 4.2 acre parcel. And Dwayne Johnson is with Konofsky and Bruce. He's the architect on record and helping us with submittal here this evening. So this is very similar to what we presented to you several months ago. We did do some revisions to it, but just again, a little bit of the history of the property. It was zoned commercial. We had actually approached the Planning Commission about 15 years ago regarding a commercial development, and that's what you're seeing on the screen this evening. 2 12,000 square foot buildings, a couple outlots, some good intentions, but at the end of the day, not a lot of activity. If you recall, Gadorzi built out at the interstate. That was probably one of the first buildings out there, and they sat vacant for a long time. So trying to compete against a building that was already up and frankly vacant for a number of years, building any spec here just continued to be a problem for us. As the years went on, we went through that downturn of 06, 08 and beyond, really caused a significant decrease in interest in land and doing commercial properties. So, we continue to work our way through that, just, marketing the property, continuing to lower in the prices, and ultimately had a couple opportunities throughout the years. One was Casey's Market that wanted to take the eastern half of this parcel. That ultimately was turned down, I think, at Village Board. Neighborhood was not very optimistic about having another gas station in town. We had additional interest for moving out, which you just recently, I think, had a proposal for the Hamburg property that's off on Highway N. And they were proposed here, but we got, before we can even get to you, there's a deed restriction from the existing developer that developed Coyle Highlands that does not allow us, basically it allows them to approve anything that happens on this parcel, which meant anything that was competing with their apartments, they were going to be opposing. So John DeWitt and Bruce Harms, you may remember their names, but they're the ones that developed it. We've had long conversations with them to try to get additional rental property on here, even doing mixed use, and anything that competed with them was just an ultimate no at the end of the day. So after sitting on this for that 15-year period and trying to figure out what the next steps were, feeling that commercial is still a difficult road ahead of us and not having much interest, we felt like it was time to maybe make something else happen. And so that's when I contacted Konofsky and Bruce and just said, hey, let's take a look at a condo project or something here. And that's what we're presenting and have presented to you now. And so we've Go ahead, Dwayne, you can jump to the next slide. So this is, when it comes up, I don't see it yet. Oops. Back, I think we're back one, right? There we go. So something similar maybe was presented to you at our original meeting. We were just trying to get the pulse of the committee to find out, if this was something that, you would be interested in taking a look at. We certainly appreciate the ability to now, for lack of a better term, allow us to, or give yourself the permission to change the zoning of this parcel for residential, or the comp plan, that is. So what we've done here, this is, I don't know, rendition P or something, I'm not even sure, but we went through a lot of these trying to get the best mix. We had originally 44 units, 42 units in total. We ultimately felt the best plan was kind of bookending this particular development. So what you're looking at is having the townhouses that are facing Sandpiper and facing Court Crossing. What that allows us to do is pick up some of the elevation that is changes that are happening there, because this property now needs to slope north or back towards that swale. And unfortunately, the grade on Sandpiper and Court continue to rise. So we're kind of fighting a little bit of that grade. So we felt changing the unit mix to have those townhouses, instead of being what you may remember is across the entire southern parcel, we changed them and put them on the sides. And so we'll show you a different rendering that will kind of show you what we ended up doing there. But bookending in with the townhouse style, and then filling in the interior of the site with what we call flats. So those will be 4-unit flats. They'll be each unit will be 2-sided. Every unit within this this development has a 2-car garage, individual private garage for each particular unit. Are very proud of that, and excited about this, the different mixes that we're going to bring in, having the townhouse style at a a more moderate price point of that $249, $259 range, and then running into the flats, which are a little bit larger, master bedroom on the first floor, things of that nature, and running more in that $300 to $350 range. So that's kind of what we're going after. We think that fits a nice moderate mid-range housing stock for this particular area. And I think it was commented last time that, it's 500 seems to be kind of the median of what the houses are out there. So we think it's an opportunity to allow people to upgrade into a private residence, a condo, at maybe a very similar price point that they would be paying on a monthly basis in a rental unit. And then, as well as those that maybe want to move from a smaller home or half duplex like you see on the northern side here, to a condo and maybe downsize a little bit. So we can move maybe to the next slide. So this is our flats. This is, again, showing the 2-car garage, residential materials, pitched roofs, asphalt roofs. As you see there, trying to fit well and kind of mesh within the neighborhood. The idea is not to think of this as something other than just another neighbor that's across the street. So we feel like we've kind of done that with just different color palettes. You got the masonry on the ground, again, a 2-story look. You see the elevation along the drive. So it's Highland Drive is the drive that's separating the parcels in half, and so that's the view of actually that's more the interior view, correct, Dwayne? That's when you drive into the driveway portion of it.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So from the street is the bottom one. There it is. Along the proposed road is the bottom elevation that you can see.
Right.
No garage doors showing. The actual doors are within along the drive. So you would turn into the driveway, and then you would left or right into your particular unit. Go ahead and jump to the next one. Showing you just a little bit of the interior design, starting on the let's see here, on the right-hand side, that would be your first floor. So you would walk into on the dining room kitchen area there. We have a single master on the lower level with the appropriate bathroom, and then you have the secondary bathroom near the steps. And going up to the second floor, you have then you got 2 additional bedrooms on these particular units that are sharing the one restroom that's on the other side of the stairwell. So again, here a 3-bedroom unit, more of a loft style too, so that you can see at the top of the steps there's an area for maybe an office, an additional TV room of something. So we felt as though having kind of a secondary space. Storage will most likely be in the garage above the garage door itself, maybe under the steps. But we're kind of, that's the next plan, is trying to figure out due to the condos where do we store most of our things, and that we don't have a basement for. So no basements are on these. So we can jump to the next one. This is the Townhouse Style. So again, the front elevation, this is what would be seen from Cork or Sandpiper. Just split it up with just a different color scheme. We had 4 colors on there. Felt as though that was just a little bit too much. But again, residential materials, masonry base, as well as then steps going up into the units. That helps us pick up some of the grade. And then as you can see on the end elevation, where on the left-hand side of this picture, that's again the Cork or Sandpiper, and we're picking up that grade drop on the side of these units that allows then the residents to pull into the base, the lower level of these units, walk up the steps to the main level, and then jump to the next one. Again, here, just the interior design. This is the 4-unit. Going back to the original plan, there's the ones on the south side are 3 units because of kind of the vision triangle and trying to fit everything in there. We were able to get 4 units on the northern lots. Again, here, driving into the basement level where you got some mechanicals, and then going up the steps into the living room, dining room area, a large kitchen on the back side, and then up the additional steps to the 2 bedrooms and private baths for each bedroom. I feel as though that's a pretty good selling point. Large closets to deal with as well. I forgot to mention on the original flats that those have decks off the backside of the living rooms as well. So trying to incorporate some outdoor seating area in those particular units. And these would just have then decks off the back. Next one.
Sorry.
Oops. One more back, right?
Yeah. My computer is not going fast today.
Okay. So I just wanted, this isn't colored up. This is Ken Psyche. They just gave this to us, so we thought it was important to include in this one. We want to make sure that landscaping and green space is a big component of this. So I don't personally have the numbers. I know this is probably more detailed than you typically get, I think, maybe on a GDP, but this is what we'll be submitting for the PIP. But as you can see, there's a lot going on here, but a lot of landscaping. The idea of having trees. You can see that we've surrounded the buildings with a like a gravel or mulch border, as well as different plantings. You can see the islands. Just point out the islands between the garages on there. So there's landscaping up front, on both sides of the building, not just what the public sees per se. So just trying to beautify that as much as possible, make it look as much as a normal home, residential, single family, as much as possible. So that's really important to our team to make sure that this is well received from, driving into the development itself, from the roads, as well as from the residents, that they really feel and can connect to green space and landscaping. And then lastly, this was just the proposed meeting schedule or entitlement schedule for us. So we did have a neighborhood meeting that was done on the 5th. Notices went out. I think we had 12, I believe there's 12 people in total that were on that. That included myself and a couple members of our team and some members from the city staff, as well as I think one or two maybe village board members or maybe planning commission members. I can't remember which. But, a handful of residents, I'd say 6 or so residents. There was one that had submitted some questions to Aaron and I that I answered within an hour, just talking about, based on what we sent, she thought there might have been flat roofs and things like that. So really going through the overall development plan, like I just did here, talking about kind of the residential feel and part of the neighborhood, part of the fabric of the community. And she felt as though I answered all those questions. So I felt good about that. Really not a lot brought up to the at the neighborhood meeting, other than I felt as though we had an overwhelming approval of what was going on there, and really liked having residential as an option over commercial. And so it was, and Aaron, you can answer to this, but I guess I felt as though the neighborhood meeting was a resounding yes for those that were in attendance. So really happy about that. And then as we go through here, obviously we're here this evening, the proposed for the GDP, then it goes to the village board on the 21st. We're going to come back then for the submittal of the final plat and PIP, and come back to you guys for a more prettied up version of what we're showing tonight in more detail, and then hopefully get a final approval from the village board sometime in January. Outside of that, I know those are kind of broad strokes about what our development is. Certainly in your packet, there's a lot of detail going into how many 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, and the total is 38 units, down from 44, which was, I think, our original plan when we sent that to you. Feel really good about the ratios that we've got there. And I believe then we also have some answers maybe to the city engineer or village engineer and some of his comments. There's some things that I didn't have an answer to that I noticed tonight was, for instance, whatever's required for street lighting, we'd certainly, fall within that. I don't think anything has been proposed at this moment, Dwayne, that I'm aware of, but
Right.
There was a recommendation, and we certainly comply with whatever's required of us there. Outside of that, it looks like most of the comments coming from engineering were going to be addressed in the PIP or final plat. That's what I have for you this evening.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Dwayne. We'll then go to Aaron. You've got a memo in the packet, as well as Kevin from MSA, and we'll go there, and then see if anybody from the public wants to chime in, and then move on to closing the public hearing, and then questions from the commission members.
Yeah, thanks, John. As far as consistency with the comprehensive plan, it generally is the current iteration of the plan. The one pretty minor exception we did call out in the comp plan for a higher level of landscaping buffer between this project and the homes to the north. And the proposed landscaping plan is almost there. We'd need about 116 more points, which for reference, a large shade tree is about 75 points. So it'd be, 2 more larger trees or maybe a few extra smaller trees. It should be easy enough to achieve that, I think. So this is being approved again as a planned unit development. So that essentially becomes its own zoning category with its own set of regulations based on the plans that are submitted. If you compare it to the MR12, which would be our most dense residential district, there would be a few exceptions sought relative to that zoning district. For example, the density on a few of the parcels would be a little higher than that 12 units per acre, but overall site-wide, they're at about 9 units per acre, which would be consistent with that zoning. A little less green space than would otherwise be required on MR12. The building coverage is a little bit higher, but compared to this being a commercial site, I think there's more green space being preserved than if that had been the case. So there's 2 different approvals we'd be seeking tonight, 2 different agenda items. The first is the general development plan. We'd recommend approval with conditions. The first one is really just a list recording some of those exceptions from the MR12 district that I discussed. And then the second one, just noting the extra 116 landscaping points that we'd like to see included in the plan for the PIP. As far as the preliminary plat, that would be the next agenda item. Also recommend approval with conditions. The one condition there, again, it's just more of a note. Typically, we'd look for a 66-foot wide right-of-way on a local street. The proposed road through the middle of the project is shown with a 60-foot right-of-way. I think that's fine, and maybe Kevin can comment on this as well, but given the pretty limited nature of that street, it's basically just going to be used by the residents, and it's more of a, almost like a driveway, more so than a street. I think that decreased right-of-way is fine. The actual pavement width would still be within the range of what we would recommend in our subdivision ordinance. And Kevin Lord from MSA, I think, also had some conditions in his staff report.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, no, and I can follow up as far as the street width. I guess in looking at it, I thought it was fine with the 60. It actually, the street to the north of it, Cowway Terrace, I believe is also 60 feet as well. So I thought it was appropriate for the use basically right as they have it. So the comments that I have, starting basically with the preliminary plat, basically just, there's 4 notes on here, but basically 2 that really, basically there was just a note regarding access. Of including one other lot that is not going to access off of Sandpiper or BB. I think it's lot 10. And it's planned to come off of the road that's planned to go in there as well right now. There was a couple other items with zoning just to add on the preliminary plat, but pretty minor items. The developer had requested there's an existing storm sewer easement along the east side of the property that kind of parallels Sandpiper Trail, and had asked that could be removed. It can't be removed with the preliminary plat and final plat approval. It has to be a separate document, but based on the drainage and everything that they have planned on here, we feel that that can be removed as well as with a separate document and everything as it goes. So basically we would recommend approval of the preliminary plat with these couple comments that we have. And then as far as the site design, just had a few comments. There's some utilities that they'll have to deal with, but I think as Kevin mentioned, I would agree most of these can all be taken care of. We're going to we recommend approval with addressing these comments and working with us on them, but these can all be addressed, I think, with the PIP submittal. So we'd like to see some intersection details. There's some drainage mainly, but the Sandpiper and the new road there, making sure just things go through that intersection correctly. Adding some utility, they've got utility services plan, just verifying the sizes. There was one sheet that I had anyway that there was some stuff not printed out on, but you could tell what was going on. Shifting around of a water valve to better service the facility. They addressed the street lighting. Like I said, we can work with Alliant and get a recommendation there as to what's needed as well. We already talked about the street width. The truncated domes will be needed for the ADA compliance for the sidewalks at the intersections. One comment on the drainage. They do have some of the parking lots on the properties to the south that basically drain toward the south, towards Cottage Grove Road. And then they basically kind of end up at the southeast corner. We would recommend those all try to drain to the north to try to get as much to that swale so we don't have water draining down that direction. So we'd like to see if we can review that before, like I said, with the next submittal. The stormwater comments, there is a regional pond for the area that basically provides, rate control and water quality treatment. Infiltration has been exempt from the site as well. So in reviewing this, basically, like we mentioned, we just would like to see the whole site, or as much of the site as possible, drained to the north. At least all the paved areas. We're mainly concerned with the parking areas there, draining those to the north. And if you can just verify some of the sizes just to make sure that it conveys the 100-year peak flows and where that all routes to. And yeah, just some of the pipe design capacities. And it looks like they've got most of their roof drains routed toward the new street. So just some drainage calculations showing the storm sewer sizing for that as well. So we recommend approval. I guess the one other note I would add that I hadn't seen, and it sounds like you guys just got the landscape plan, or the one that was there, and I guess I would just review that. It looked like there was a lot of landscaping in that swale that's to the north. So I guess if we just review that, I hadn't seen that before as to what landscaping is there, so we maintain the drainage and everything on that swale as well. So, but we would recommend approval as well, just with working with us on the comments in our letter.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Aaron. I will take a pause then and allow anybody who is from the public who would like to speak on this to please do so. Again, please share your name, your address, and hold your comments to 3 minutes in case we have multiple individuals who would like to say something about this particular development. All right, again, if there's nobody from the public that wants to speak about this, we'll move to close the public hearing portion of the commission meeting this evening and move on to commission members with their comments, questions, etc. So I'll open the floor to any commission member who would like to speak.
I have two questions, John.
Go ahead, Alex.
Is the road, the proposed road, is that dedicated or is that staying part of the project? Who maintains that?
Right now it's proposed as a public street. It would be maintained by the city or the village.
Okay. And then I guess the other one, Aaron, is a comment for Aaron. He gets soft at the end of the year. In your comments, you don't have your information there about the sign. You always have something about a sign, and you need to follow this. Don't forget the ordinance and follow the process for adding signage. So if anyone who's doing submittals, end of the year is when Aaron is the softest, it appears. So everything else looks good.
I wasn't sure there would be a monument type sign with this.
It's always in there, though. So.
Yeah. If I may address, and Dwayne, correct me if I'm wrong. We did have some discussion of whether or not we wanted to name this, Highland condos or something to that effect. And at this moment, we weren't planning on, having other than marketing signs on a vacant piece of property. We weren't at this point proposing to actually have, monument signs as you enter into this development on either side of the proposed road. indicating what the development was. We just felt as though it was just going to be part of the community and no different than any other street. But at least that was the consensus when asked when we were submitting the documentation. So.
Thanks. That's all for me, John.
Kevin, I was just curious, is the plan to have one condo association for all these buildings, or are you going to separate the townhouses versus the flats or whatever?
We're actually separating each unit. So there'll be each particular building will be in itself its own condo document, and then they'll be part of a master association that will control all the maintenance and landscaping and things like that need to be done. And part of that is just the ability to get opportunity for financing for individuals. When we can break them down into 4 units, there's less documentation that's needed to do a 4-unit condo. There's less documentation needed to finance a 4-unit condo. So we felt as though that gave buyers the best opportunity to get in at a good price point and take advantage of some additional financing measures that are available to 4 units as opposed to a larger complex. So again, each one will be a 4-unit condo with a part of a master association.
All right, thank you. Other questions from commission members or comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to note that I did listen in on the neighborhood meeting, and I thought that this project was very well received by the neighbors, and they had a lot of good comments and feedback too. And I think that's been taken into consideration with this project. I did have a couple of questions, however, both John and Alex asked them before me, so I have my answers already. So thank you so much for bringing this forward.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Other commission members, questions or comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm kind of a numbers person. So my initial, opposition to this was taking away the commercial, property tax value, switching it over to residential, which typically, when you average in the average cost per student, I'm wondering how many families do you think are going to be here? It seems, I just was running numbers. It seems like the break even on property tax is about 10 kids in this development. Anything over that, the rest of the community is like kind of picking up the slack, as opposed to when you have a commercial development there, you're taking away money that the taxpayers don't have to pay anymore, if that makes sense. But so I'm just kind of wondering what the anticipated family ratio is, if there's going to be a bunch of kids here, where it's going to be an even bigger tax burden on the already highly burdened taxpayers in our community right now.
So we do feel like we will be getting, some conversion over, having 2 and 3 bedroom units. I mean, it's anticipated that there would be, multiple people living there. We're literally just going off of averages. We're figuring roughly 2.5. I mean, that's a standard kind of rule of thumb. That makes 95 people for this particular development. Mm-hmm. I think the townhouse style definitely lends themselves to those that are interested in, or maybe that are currently in a rented duplex or even in a larger apartment that would be moving into, a private, residence that's a condominium. So I don't have any good numbers for you, Kim. We didn't do a market study per se in terms of families versus non-families. I think the flats might lend themselves to some empty nesters or people that are wanting to move out of a larger house. So that would be the goal of those larger flats. That's why we built them that way with the master on the base, that they would have family that maybe comes and visits, but in general, that those units would be meant for people that are downsizing from residents and typically empty nesters, and we felt as though the townhouse style from a price point maybe was an upgrade from an apartment or a larger apartment. So I do feel like that you're going to get some families in here, but truly, honestly, the flats they certainly can be families. They were meant to appeal to maybe an older population.
Okay. So based on, you said 2.5, that would be, assuming the half would be the kids. So you'd be looking at about like, and I'm not, you're averaging maybe 19 kids in the development, I guess would be right if that point.
Yeah, I guess that's normally when we built a 42 unit down on Lake Monona, and we used 2.5 as a roundabout residence for the whole thing. So I don't know if the half kid is just in general, but some of these units are 3 bedrooms. They, might have, husband, wife, and 2 kids. That's 4 people. Some might just have 2. So more of a statistical average of 2.5. So I want to say 95. And if I wish I had a great answer for you. I don't. Dwayne, I don't know if you have one that I can talk about families, but I can just tell you our overall vision for the property was townhouses were kind of lending themselves to maybe those that were, families younger, because you're dealing with steps, and I'm 50 now and I'm trying to avoid steps. So that was the idea of the flats. So we were thinking younger families, townhouses, flats, more of an older population.
Okay.
I guess if you took I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, but if we wanted to talk about the townhouses, you're looking at 8 plus another 6, so you're looking at 14 units. And if they had 2 kids, that's or one kid, averaging 1 kid, per unit, that's 14.
Yep.
Overall, pricing, just kind of back of the napkin, we're roughly, 11, 12 million and maybe total value. It all depends on the commercial. If it was built, you had 2 outlot buildings and 2 12,000 square foot buildings. I guess at this point I didn't have anything. So a Casey's would have probably been, 3-4 million. I don't know.
Yep. CVS. I just kind of looked at the CVS. They're 43,000. The way I'm looking at it is, when you have a commercial, you're not using basically any of the
services. Yeah.
Right. It's when you start adding more people, and which is fine. We're a growing community. I get it. But this plot is deemed commercial. And I don't know if, back when this happened, if there was some sort of formula that says, if we have this many people, we need this much commercial. If that's a thing, is that a thing, Aaron? I don't know. I'm assuming there's some sort of figures, numbers that go into planning a community. So I'm just looking at
some kind of ballparking like that. I think the market has kind of shown that maybe they guess they needed too much, because that's been sitting there for 20 years.
Right. But I think since the original, 15 years ago, that like when that plan popped up for what he put in 15 years ago, I'm like, that looks amazing. That looks like exactly what should be here and exactly what should be on either side of those things. This is 15 years later. I think we've already talked about this. Our population has grown. If you look at the Gaston Road area, we're bringing in thousands of more people. I feel like this area, to keep it commercial at some point, if somebody wants to build, so it's walkable. It's walkable for people in this area, for the people that all the development that's going to be coming across the street from this area. These are all walkable places where you can walk to get an ice cream cone, or you can walk to get, pick up your dry cleaning, or, I'm having a hard time seeing how converting this to residential, how it makes sense. So that's just my 2 cents. I wanted to kind of get a feel. The numbers, I guess it's the numbers that I'm looking at with, the more kids you add with the lower property values, the more tax burden you're putting on the taxpayers currently. So with the commercial, you're unburdening people. With the higher density residential, you're burdening everybody even more. So that's what I'm looking at, and those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Kevin, maybe a different way to ask this is, you guys have already, I'm assuming you've already kind of planned kind of the marketing of this. What's the marketing plan? You kind of alluded to empty nesters, but I'm assuming you got something sketched out how you're going to position these units. And so maybe that answers Kim's question a little better, unless you don't quite have that all settled out.
And we don't. I mean, we don't have the marketing plan settled out. I mean, when we were, there was a lot of moving parts trying to figure out, how best to lay the units out. Access, I would say, draining to the north and all that kind of stuff, that just the dynamics of the site itself just kind of lended itself to a lot of different, designs that we ended up in this place, which felt as though, I feel like we hit the mark. But, there were plans that were showing, Dwayne, I don't know what it was, 24, maybe townhouse units, or even more than that. I mean, we had some plans that were showing much more townhouse style than the flats, and we've kind of reversed that a little bit. So there was actually the latest plan prior to this one showed a lot more townhouse style, which would lend itself to probably that, more what Kim was alluded to, more children, more families than the flats. Now I feel like we've kind of actually flipped this development a little bit, and talking about 1,700 square foot masters on the first floor, and kind of going after those that want to drop out of a $500,000-$600,000 house and drop it into something that's in the threes, yet maintain their residence in Cottage Grove. So I would say that our marketing, in this latest plan, we felt as though we probably, without even Kim speaking, we were probably thinking we'd lend ourselves to more downsizing than people actually bringing in families. But again, statistically, I have no data to back any of that up. Marketing plan. I mean, we did some. The realtors had done some market comps and things like that in terms of square footages and what things are going for, but none of that really addresses whether or not something's lended more to a family style or not.
I don't know that. I'm going to jump in, I guess. Sorry. I don't know that downsizing is my 2 cents, right? So we're just talking about this project here. Downsizing isn't really going to work. I mean, it's just a weird thing to say. Anyone who's been in Cottage Grove for more than 8 years bought their property, $100,000 less than what it's sort of valuated at now. So, I bought my house 2012, 4 bedrooms, 3-car garage, $270,000. That's basically what you're marketing, I think, in your zone. A typical condo, I would think, should be $150,000. So to downsize, I wouldn't leave this for less property for the same price, right? So, just talking out loud, thinking about how the valuations are, thinking about, again, some of the questions that's being proposed from Kim about where families are going to go and move themselves. I don't know that it would appeal to me to downsize out of a 4-bedroom house and pay more, or come back to a higher mortgage rate or something like that. So I appreciate the conversation on the valuation, because it's something I really haven't thought about how that affects the tax base, and the burden. That crossover point, Kim, that was a great look at. Never thought of the curve, and then where does it peak and then sort of fall off and say, okay, now it becomes a burden. So it's a good analysis.
The other thing that we haven't talked about is, what if this particular development spurs a commercial property on either side or on the other side of the street, because there's a greater density there. Just another thought there. These multiple lots have been sitting empty for 15 plus years, as well as the ones on the other side. They're all available for commercial property, but nobody's moving on it. That's because commercial, we know, is not, everybody's buying stuff and having it delivered to their home now. So maybe this does help mix and spur that area. I don't know, but it's just another thing to throw out there.
So while I feel, the property has been sitting vacant for so long, that's unfortunate, for you to have that land and have nothing developed on it. But I'm looking at the community and how it affects the taxpayers, and having nothing is better than having something that is going to cost everyone else around them more. That's how I kind of look at it. Yeah, I know they've been open for a long time. Again, I feel, with everything else that's happening around that's already deemed residential, those are all getting built upon. So we're going to have more people, and maybe this is going to be more attractive to more of a commercial development at some point, where our population is growing, I think, rather quickly, especially with the addition of the stuff over on Gaston Road. So we're going to be hitting some plateaus or some minimums where, maybe places need 8,000 people before they even look at something. So maybe we're starting to hit some of those numbers now with the already planned residential. So while I don't have anything against this project, I think it's great. That's a good price point. I don't feel that's the right place for it. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted to have a discussion about it. And bring some numbers to it, I guess.
That's Kim. That's why we're here. Any other comments, questions from?
Yes, I have a few questions.
Okay. Yes, Fred.
And I apologize if I missed some of this, but what is the plan for trash collection? Will you be using village services, or is there going to be, private collection service?
The plan wasn't private. It would be probably using village services. I mean, these would be residential units, no different than the duplexes, I guess. They just happen to be 4 units.
And then the opposite end of the driveways where you enter, it looks like there's space there. I mean, is that going to be designated for additional overflow parking, or?
The areas beyond, like here?
Correct.
Yeah, those are extra parking stalls, which we're kind of getting to the level that we wanted them to be at, to keep people off the public streets and have a extra stall for certain homes.
So then each driveway will hold 2 cars in front of their garage?
Right. Some of the drives aren't long enough to park in front of, so that was why we wanted to have these extra. And then some of them are where it calls off 1 parking stall. Those are long enough to have a car parked tandem behind the garage.
And then is each unit going to have a cluster box for a mail collection, or?
They each have their own separate doors. So I guess, those are great questions, Fred. I haven't thought about that yet. If I look at what was required, I built those duplexes across the northern side there, so I'm familiar with the area in terms of having mailboxes out at the road. I would assume that that was required of that particular building. Those duplexes required me to do that.
Right. I don't think it's gotten here yet, but I know parts of Madison, they're requiring cluster boxes for entire residential neighborhoods.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. That hadn't got yet to kind of our our thought process in terms of what that would be. If that's something that is of interest, it certainly makes some sense to have cluster boxes. I don't think there's a disadvantage to that.
Okay. That was all my questions.
All right, thanks, Fred. Other questions, comments?
I would note on the for the schools have planned for the village to grow. They've planned for our growth, and we haven't really been meeting what they've been planning for. So that actually puts more on us, the rest of us who are living here, to pick up what isn't being accomplished with our growth. So if we don't meet the school's numbers that they've projected for us, that's hurting all of our residents. I think more so than if we go over a certain amount of children or students in this development. And your point, John, about this could spur commercial development in this area, I think is very likely. Our growth on the other side of our community, like that's in that area, that might not necessarily have any impact for commercial growth in this area, because businesses want to be where people are. And if all the people are on our north side, being on Cottage Grove Road isn't going to help them with their business. So I think this is a good development to help hopefully get some more commercial going. Thanks.
All right. Any other comments, questions from commission members? This is obviously discussed and considered. So I don't know if there's anybody that's interested in making a motion at this point, but.
Did I miss it? Did you close the public hearing?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. I guess I'll make a motion to approve the general development plan from Kevin Metcalf for a 38-unit multifamily residential development located on lots 1 through 4 of CSM number 12454, bounded by Court Crossing, County Highway BB, and Sandpiper Trail with staff recommendations.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Got a motion and second then for the general development plan. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
I believe the motion carries, if I can count right. Anybody abstain? I gotta make sure I cover that. All right. Next, we have item 8 is discuss and consider the proposed preliminary plat for this development. Any questions or comments there? Is there a motion or consideration for this one then, if there's no discussion?
I guess I'll make. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Nope, it's all you. You got it.
All right. I will make a motion to approve the proposed preliminary plat from Kevin Metcalf for a 38-unit multifamily residential development located on lots 1 through 4 of CSM number 12454, bounded by Court Crossing, County Highway BB, and Sandpiper Trail with staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
I think Fred beat you, Alex.
I'm out. I'm hanging up. Can't get anything done.
No, don't hang up yet.
Okay.
It is motion and second then. Is there any further discussion? All right, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Moving on to item 9, future agenda items. Certainly we'll have more consideration on this particular development. Aaron or Matt, anything else that the commission should be aware of?
We should be having a site plan for a business in the old business park, doing an expansion.
All right. Anything else? That's
So I know it for sure. I know the sustainability committee is starting to look at the solar panel issue. I don't know if that'll be back here by January.
we may not be yet. They're going to meet one more time to kind of put some more teeth onto that. All right. Item 10 then. You want to make
Motion to adjourn.
We got a first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Motion second. Thank you. Non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everybody have a great night and have wonderful holidays.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.